They're just laning. Give me a second. They're poking now. Got the second one. Perfect. One more. Two more. Poked him. Yep, one more. Tagged. Oh, last one. There you go. Good job, guys. Welcome back, Guardians, to another Dream Team Destiny 2 video. I'm your humble host, Cranky Crab, and today I'm going to be talking about an Omega build that I like to call Unending Sight. Now, this build is hands down the most fun I have ever had in the Crucible. And I like it because nobody plays like this. It's a very different way to play the game. It is evasive, it is elusive, it's not necessarily aggressive, in-your-face, shotgunning, close quarters chaos that you normally see in the Crucible. But I like that. I like that it's a change of pace, and if you prefer that close range, fast-paced shotgunning style of play, you might also like this simply as a way to change up the Crucible for you and maybe to work on a different skill set. Now, I've used this in 6v6, Control, Clash, you name it. I've even taken it into high rank, legendary comp, and honestly, I've had my best comp games with this loadout. So let's go ahead and take a minute and actually break down the build. So we start here with the Wish Ender Bow, and this is the cornerstone of the entire build. Most people do not use this in the Crucible, but the hard-hitting nature, certainly the exotic perk really is, I think, underappreciated. So on the Wish Ender Bow, you've got the exotic perk Queen's Wrath. While aiming down sights, you get wall hacks. In an Omega position, it's hard to overstate how important information is, to be able to tell the rest of the team what's going on, where people are, and how many of them there are. So the Wish Ender Bow is the first component. We couple that with the Middle Tree Night Stalker Spectral Blades. And of course, when you get Flawless Execution, getting a precision kill while crouched, you get True Sight. So we have True Sight at all times with the bow when we're aiming down sights. When we get a headshot kill, we get True Sight. So the goal here is to be able to see what's going on the map at all times. So the Wish Ender, in my opinion, couples best with another exotic that no one uses, which is the Oathkeeper. So bow charges can be held indefinitely. Now, certainly there's a risk with this build of getting tunnel vision. If you're always looking down sights, people are going to walk right up on you and shoulder charge you, melee you, kill you in some fashion. So we'll get into that in tactics. You don't want to be looking down sights all the time, but it is nice to have just a little bit longer draw on the bow when you need it. To support the bow, I've tried various different energy weapons. I've run with the Luna's Howl. I tried this build initially with Lucky Pants and Luna's Howl, and it's certainly an effective build. You can certainly play that way. A lot of bows will couple with hand cannons well and Lucky Pants, but that's probably a different build for a different day. I have run this most successfully with automatic weapons. I've used submachine guns. I ran for a very long time with this beautiful Black Scorpion here, but ultimately I settled on this Reckless Oracle. It's one of only two that have dropped for me in the raid. I was really surprised how much I liked Mulligan. If you empty the entire 50-round magazine, you'll find that it consistently returns 10 to 15 rounds to you. So when you're spraying this weapon, hopefully you're not missing, but if you are, there's a good chance you're going to get some of your rounds back. The Reckless Oracle does 19 to the head without kill clip, and with kill clip, it does 25 to the head. The Wish Ender Bow, on the other hand, does 160 damage to the head and 102 damage to the body. Of course, with Weapons of Light, which you'll see some clips in the video here of, you can one-shot to the head with the Wish Ender Bow, which is actually quite fun. So most of the time you should be getting headshots. Occasionally you will get body shots, but with a headshot at 160, you only need basically 40 damage, which is 2 rounds more or less from the auto rifle. So these two couple very well together. The Reckless Oracle, I may end up doing a video on this all by itself just because this weapon has impressed me so much. The aim assistance on it is 75, and I'm telling you, it feels like Zen moment. This auto rifle, when you spray it at a wall, sprays wildly all over the place, but when you're shooting a target, a guardian, or an ad or something, I can't tell you how much it pulls directly onto target and stays stable, and with kill clip active, it is ridiculously fast time to kill. The last component in the weapons is the good old Year 1 Quick Thing. This just adds such an element of fun. It plays directly into the stealth, sneaky nature, the jump out and gotcha type of play style that I use with this build. It just looks really cool to be running around with a ninja sword and a big long bow on your back. So there's a massive fun factor. Is it the most practical heavy weapon? Probably not, but you know what? You still get 5 or 6 swings with it. If you're good, that's 5 or 6 kills, and it is an incredible amount of fun, which is the point of playing the game. Other than that, we've got maximum mobility. We'll talk about that in tactics, but maximum mobility is the most important thing that you can have here. One of the other important components that I forgot to mention with this subclass is the good old corrosive smoke with the vortex grenade, otherwise known as Wombo Combo. So we'll take a minute here to talk about tactics and how all of these things tie in together. So what's the point of this build? The point of this build is to do several things. It's to provide support to your team. You can land instantly 160 damage with a headshot on any target. That will allow any of your teammates who are engaging that target to essentially one-shot them. There's some clips I've got here in the video of me coaching a team through multiple opponents pushing through a choke point. I tag each one of them, the team cleans them up really quickly, and that just shows how effective this build can be. So in addition to information and long-range support, I found in many matches that I can control an area purely with fear. People do not know you're there if you're playing this build correctly. You want to be felt and not seen. You want to see all but remain unseen. That's really the point of this build. So that gets into one of our first tactics, which is how to use cover. So with this build, you do not need to expose yourself to get information. You don't need to be seen for you to see what's going on. You can see through literal walls. You know how many enemies are there. You can tell what they're doing, whether they're crouching, whether they're advancing, whether they're retreating, how many of them there are, what part of the room they're in. If your team, if your front line is getting ready to jump on a control point, for example, you can see in the room, you can see where people are stationed to ambush them, and you can tell them exactly where to throw grenades and so forth. The information you get from this build is incredible, and it allows you to remain safe while you see everything. So the other thing you can do while you stay hidden is that you can acquire your target before they ever poke out from cover. This could be very frustrating for people because you're aiming at their head and following them, literally tracing them through walls, and the millisecond that their head is exposed, you hit them for 160 damage. This can cause all kinds of fear and panic in a team. Another good way to use this, again, is to get 1 or 2 hits on enemies and then change your position. You'll know when you can move if they don't see you, and if you move from where you are to a new location, then they collapse on that location, you're no longer there, you tag them in the head again, and they're constantly on their heels, frustrated. They have no idea where you are. You're like a ninja getting ready to jump out of a tree and scare them at any moment, and that's the power of this build. So let's talk about the next tactic, which is the ABCs of this build. ABC, always be crouching. This again is why we need maximum mobility. When you're crouched, you tend to move more slowly, but the higher your mobility, the more quickly you can move while you're crouched. So you want maximum mobility. Why do we want to be crouched? Well, for a couple of reasons. We don't show up on radar as easily. This will allow you to remain hidden. Also, while you're crouched, you get true sight from your super, which is, again, the point of this build, to be able to see all at all times. So this build requires patience, which is something that players don't typically have, but I can tell you that if you give it a try, it can actually be a lot of fun to watch how a team tries to respond to you. They're going to do really one of two things in my experience. They're going to get more and more scared and huddle up in their spawn point, or they're going to get very aggressive and try to chase you down. So as we talked about earlier, it's important that you don't get tunnel vision. That is one of the dangers of this build, being that you can hold that bow as long as you like. It can turn into a crutch, and you want to be careful about not doing that. You need to watch your radar. When you see pings on the radar, zoom in, look in that area, see what the enemies are doing. How many of them are there? Are they advancing? Are they holding a position? And react accordingly. So you need to have patience. You also need to evade. If you have an aggressive front line pushing you, you're not going to be able to stop them. Not unless you've got multiple teammates around you that can help you clean them up as you pick them with your bow. If you're by yourself, and a lot of times as an Omega, you're pretty far from the rest of your team. If you see frontline players advancing on you quickly, you need to then get up, sprint, completely change your position, completely reorient yourself to your team and away from the enemy front line. So the keys to this build: patience, evade. You're really looking to harass. You don't necessarily have to finish kills. You want to harass them, you want to use stealth, and you want to use the element of surprise. You're there to set up enemies to be killed by your teammates or to finish them off, get that true sight, and then be able to relay that information back to your team. This build is all about indirect engagement. This is not in any way a 1v1 build. You will not take this into Rumble and have much success. You certainly won't be able to 1v1 very many players. Anyhow, that's the build. I hope that you enjoyed the footage. I had a ton of fun with this build and continue to. I switch to it whenever I need to just kind of liven things up and change the pace. It was a lot of fun for me, and I hope that it's a lot of fun for you. So thanks for watching. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing, and we'll catch you on the next one.